Welcome to República de Colombia, a Global Cultural Awareness 2 presentation by Amanda Kaiser.
A few facts about Colombia. Their population is a tad over 48 million people. The size of their country is measured in kilometers and is just over 1 million kilometers, which equals to a little over 440,000 square miles. Their currency is the peso, and they declared their independence from Spain in 1810.
The other languages that most of the Colombians speak are listed into three different sections. One is indigenous, one is Creole, and then the other is sign language. A lot of them actually know how to speak sign language. Currently, 101 languages are listed for Colombia in the Ethnologue database, but only 70 of the languages are spoken in Colombian present-day company. The rest of them are registered as dead languages. As you can see off to the left-hand side, I've provided a list of some of the indigenous and Creole languages, as well as the other languages that they speak in Colombia. Some facts about the languages of Colombia is that each one of the indigenous languages and the Creole and other languages listed on the prior slide actually shows that there are different dialects spoken in Colombia based on your region. So if you take a look to the map on the left-hand side, you'll notice that in each color, it's a different dialect spoken there. Spanish is actually considered a high context language. English is only spoken in 3 parts of Colombia, and English is considered a low context language. Each dialect, though, has different phonics, slang words, pronouns, and they're used in the everyday communication. So whereas you might find one word in one region, you're not going to find that word spoken or written or communicated with in another region. Most of the cultural norms in Colombia come from food. They are a very food-orientated country. One of the biggest sayings you will find in Colombia is a la orden, which means at your order. It's one of the most commonly used phrases in Colombia, and it's actually also substituted as a thank you. You can use it to say, may I help you? And you can also state that when you say a la orden, it actually means that their possession is at your disposal as well. Some of the dining etiquette in Colombia for their cultural norms is you must wait to be seated by the host. You do not rest your elbows on the table. Elders always come first when serving food. You need to try everything you're given in order to be considered polite, but in order to show your satisfaction with the food, you should leave a small amount of the food on the plate. Eating everything with utensils is also a must. Yes, even chicken wings, you need to eat them with utensils. As in every country, there are language do's and taboos while visiting. Do try everything on your plate. Wait for the host to say buen provecho to start eating. Remember that team name for the soccer team in the city you're visiting. That's very large. It's a very good conversation starter. Remember that soccer is also called fútbol in Colombia. It is not called soccer. Bring a potted plant or chocolates when visiting a home, and refer to the elders for any decision making. Elders are very sparse in Colombia, therefore they are the heads of households. Don't make jokes about drugs, they don't like it. Don't whistle for attention. Don't give lilies or marigolds, they're actually considered funeral flowers. Don't use a toothpick at the table. As stated in the prior slide, do not rest your elbows on the table. As I just mentioned before, don't call football soccer. Don't rush things along either, or require a strict time frame for any business dinner parties or meetings. It's considered rude to actually put things on a timetable in Colombia. The Colombian Spanish alphabet is actually different than the English alphabet here in America. There are different ways to say the letters or put them into words to make them mean different things. On this slide is just a simple overview of what some of our American letters would be versus what they would use in place of it. Some of the everyday language basics that they use: hello, como le va, goodbye, adios, please, por favor, thank you, darle gracias, nice to meet you, enchada de concert, and do you speak English? Habla inglés. Some of their slang language basics is right, cierto, how do you mean, como say, be cool, fresco. A bribe is legar. Cool, que nota. The thing is that, lo que pasa es que. On the Hofstede's value dimensions, Colombia versus United States was really interesting. Colombia has a higher indulgence rate than the United States, a lower long-term orientation, a higher uncertainty avoidance, masculinity was about the same, they have much lower individualism, and their power distance is a lot higher. As it is with every country, Colombians have assumptions about the United States, the same as we have assumptions about Colombians. Some of the assumptions that Colombians have about Americans is that Americans only eat junk food, that the majority of us are blue or green-eyed and blonde, that we're generally rich, that Americans think that the whole world is like America, that we're crazy for not liking soccer, that the Americans are very patriotic, and that Americans are generally ignorant as to where other countries are located on a map. If you'll be working in Colombia, understand that Colombians treat foreigners with a lot of respect. If you're traveling for business or pleasure, expect to be treated like royalty. Good hostessing and treatments of guests is a major cultural norm in Colombia. Colombians will attempt English in order to better understand you, but unless you are in one of the 3 major cities that speaks English, you need to make sure that you can either speak Spanish, you have a translator, or your phone works Google Translate well. This is just one of many beautiful pictures of Colombia. According to the New Economic Foundation Happy Planet Index, Colombia has the 2nd happiest population of the world. Colombia is a beautiful country with a great deal of biodiversity. It has coastal mountains, plains, jungles, and the Andes. Colombia is the only country in South America that has coasts and beaches on both the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. Colombia's people are as varied as its landscape as well. Most citizens are descended from 3 ethnic groups: the Indians, the African people brought to Colombia to work as slaves, and the European settlers. This rich cultural mix makes the country's foods, music, dance, and art as diverse and unique as its countryside. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation about the República de Colombia. I tried to be most accurate in my facts and cite my sources, as you can see at the bottom of each slide. If you have any questions, please post them below and I'll do my best to give you an answer.